G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard, now I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hearing that racket. Dots came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know he stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slurry. Got a blast, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on, baby? And we are back. A little bit of a break. You know, AC doesn't like to take any breaks, but we tried our hardest to get out some content while my man Brett was away in Italy. But a little bit of construction outside the studio seemed to stunt the audio a little bit, so we couldn't get that done. But we're back in the saddle. And, you know, I'm just happy to be here. It's great to be back. Brett's in the stew right now. I was on the phone with him, you know, leading up to this, asking him about his trip. Let's just say, guy had such a good time that he couldn't really put too many words into it. Kind of just looked at me and said, fuck, it's Italy, bro. It's beautiful. And, you know, I believe him on that. And he didn't even know where the Amalfi Coast was, which is kind of jokes because anybody who's had like Windows XP or something has probably set that backdrop as their background. But welcome to the world, Brett. The Amalfi Coast has blessed you and your girlfriend, and I hope you had a great time. And we're back on the show. We got rich content. First thing we're going to talk a little bit about Caleb Plant, who beat Anthony the Dog Durrell last night. A little bit of a left hook to the body, set that up. Durrell dropped the elbow down low. You're too slow. There comes that left hook over the dome. And out goes Anthony Durrell. Congratulations to Caleb Plant, who's now the mandatory for the WBC title in the super middleweight division. And I guess you guys could guess who the champion of that division is. Saul Canelo Alvarez. So we might get the rematch, ladies and gentlemen. And I got to say, I'd be looking forward to that. But with so much politics that go on in boxing and all of these sanctioning bodies, will that fight happen next? I highly, highly doubt it. And besides, we still have Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez that we would love to see. It has a great background story. So congratulations to Tennessee's Caleb Plant back in the game with a nice KO. I think a lot of the spectators were surprised by that knockout, but Sweet Hands could get it done anyway, baby. So I'm happy about that victory. I'm sure the fans are happy about that victory. The only folks that weren't happy about that victory were the referees in the ring on that evening, due to the fact that Caleb Plant did a little bit of an Undertaker grave digging ceremony for Anthony Durrell after he knocked him out. Kind of, you know, did the little shovel gesture of digging in the dirt, digging his grave. The ref didn't like that, kind of told Caleb Plant to back off. But a lot of the viewers here, maybe some of you have seen Tito Ortiz back in the day do a similar celebration. And I got to say, I'm a fan. So congrats to Caleb Plant, a great victory. And then after that, we were blessed with another first round KO by Deontay, the Browns bomber Wilder. Victorious over Robert Helenius, former silver WBC champion. And, you know, I think it was the third punch that Deontay threw, and he knocked him out with devastating power. Not really much we could maybe take away from the fight, aside from the fact that you could see that Wilder was trying to utilize his lateral movement a bit more. Again, like we've seen in the Tyson Fury fight, you know, was still okay with being on the back foot, but knew that he had cannons and power in both hands to put Helenius to the mat should he get backed up too far into the corner. And that's exactly what happened. So congratulations to Deontay Wilder. We're hoping for that Anthony Joshua fight, since it seems like, once again, Joshua and Fury can't get the deal done behind the scenes. I just think there's way too much bravado and ego between Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn. There's also a lot riding on Anthony Joshua should he take on Tyson Fury. You know, if Anthony Joshua were to lose again, realistically, I guess the Wilder fight is there, but perhaps it would be far less appealing depending on how that matchup would go against Fury. But that's not happening. So we might have Wilder versus Joshua. And quite frankly, at this point, that's the matchup that I would like to see. Why? Because it seems like it's the deal that could get done. And that's what I'm interested in the boxing world. The deals that could get done. There's too much politicking. There's too much issues with the sanctioning bodies and the promoters and the money behind the scenes. I'm only interested in the fights that are going to happen, which is why I didn't delve too deep into Canelo versus Caleb Plant too. There's just so much in the way. You know, I mean, fuck, Canelo had to fight Triple G for the third time on DAZN when it had no business happening. So hopefully we'll get to see Deontay Wilder versus Joshua. And if we don't, it looks like we'll get Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz, which I'm a little bit ill-feeling about because I like Andy Ruiz. You know, he's a shorter heavyweight. He's got explosive speed and power. He's a chubby guy. He's got that Disney cartoonish vibe to him. And after beating Anthony Joshua in that first fight, you know, he won over a lot of fans. So based off of his last few performances, Luis Ortiz, etc., they haven't been emphatic. They haven't been those explosive, you know, captivating Andy Ruiz victories that perhaps we want after seeing him beat Anthony Joshua. So for him to go in there against Wilder is a very dangerous fight. Wilder is a far bigger guy with far more knockout power and has a much bigger reach. So for Ruiz to go in there against Wilder and, you know, show up maybe similar to the way he did against Luis Ortiz, who could be 1,000 years old or could be 35. We're not sure. Would be devastating to his career. I think that should Wilder fight Ruiz and Wilder were to get that devastating KO, I absolutely believe it would be the last time we'd see Andy Ruiz in the ring. So that's my early prediction of how that fight would go, and how Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder would go. That's yet to be seen. Again, I'm only interested in talking about the fights that could actually happen, and I think that the Ruiz versus Wilder fight has a far greater chance of that happening. So congratulations to the Bronze Bomber. Congratulations to Sweet Hands Caleb Plant. And, you know, little sip of that Happy Dad, got the watermelon on deck, and then we're going to break down UFC 280 in Abu Dhabi. I can't wait for it. So, a lot of big fights on this card. A lot of big fights. We're only going to break down the top three, unfortunately, because I want to keep your little ears and your little brains nice and entertained. And I mean little respectfully. We're accepting of all kinds here. I mean, I even have Brett as my producer. So, you know, here we go. Guys flipping me the bird. So here we go. I mean, look, first thing we got Suga Sean. You know, Suga's so sweet, as I once said on the unanimous decision. As I've said before, I always have a soft spot for Suga Sean because he was one of the first fighters that I covered in my podcasting career. We also have a Suga Sean highlight reel YouTube short that'll be coming out soon. I edited it while Brett was away. Put a nice little ode to Suga Sean as the soundtrack. Hopefully YouTube doesn't boops me on that. We'll see what happens. I'm not looking to make dough off of it. Just let me post it, baby. So, you know, we got Suga Sean versus Petr Yan. Right away, that shit rolls right off the tongue, baby. Suga Sean versus Petr Yan. It rolls right off the tongue. I mean, look, Suga Sean is a captivating character. He's in the vlogs. He's with Nelk. He's with Steve Will Do It. He's a partner in Happy Dad now. Shout out, what's Gucci? And look, he's got a captivating, polarizing style. You know, he likes to fight on the feet. He could fight in both stances. He's explosive in orthodox. He's explosive in southpaw. But he's fighting a guy in Petr Yan who has A1 Muay Thai, A1 boxing, great footwork, and a tenacity that Suga Sean has not faced in the octagon yet. Suga Sean is going to look to be that counter striker. He's going to use his length and he's going to use his reach. He's going to throw those teeps to the body. He's going to confuse Yan a little bit with those spinning back kicks to the ribs. But at the same time, as he draws Petr Yan in and he frustrates him, that's when he's going to get his punches off. I don't see Suga Sean being the initiator in the boxing realm. Okay, similar to what we saw in the Pedro Munoz fight, a lot of leg kicks, a lot of checking of the leg kicks, and a lot of work coming from the lower body versus the hands. Okay, and once Petr Yan perhaps gets more frustrated or more prone and willing to close that distance with his head movement and his footwork, and also perhaps to utilize his Muay Thai clinch with Suga up against the cage, that's when perhaps we're going to see more of the dynamic striking and boxing of Suga Sean. Okay, which makes it a little bit weird, right? Because it's almost up to Petr Yan to be aggressive and bring that fight to Suga in order for Suga to be successful. And what's interesting about that is that same aggression and moving forward in Petr Yan is exactly what the fuck fans are afraid of. Okay, because he's a killer. He is a hitman. I was telling Brett before, Suga versus Yan is like Jason Statham versus the Joker. You know what I mean? It's got that action-packed role in it. With a little bit of mind games as well, because Suga's look, his personality, the way he carries himself bothers Petr Yan. And we saw in his last performance against Aljamain Sterling, that an emotional and overconfident Petr Yan is only a detriment to himself, in fact. So, it's such an interesting fight because almost all of the pressure is on Petr Yan. If Suga loses, it's not a big deal. He's young in the game. His biggest matchups to date in the UFC against Marlon Vera, who's now kind of in a new realm of himself, who's a contender now for the title versus when they fought. And then you also have Pedro Munoz, who's a great fighter. And then the fight ended in a no contest, and then all of a sudden he's fighting the number one contender in Petr Yan, basically. He doesn't really have anything to lose, but Petr Yan does. He got backpacked by Aljamain Sterling, okay, for 25 minutes, showing that being overconfident, being over-emotional, not sticking to the game plan is a huge detriment. And then on top of that, now he's fighting a guy in Suga Sean that he absolutely despises, wants to completely embarrass and knock him out, but knows that the way he got into the octagon last time is not going to work. He's the one who has all the pressure, Petr Yan. He's apparently the one who's more skilled, more aggressive, more feared of in the division. Suga Sean is apparently just supposed to be a clown who's been fighting nobodies. But should he come in there overconfident, emotional, not set his feet and his head movement properly, not try to close the distance, or not try to take that fight to the ground perhaps, it's going to be a long night for Petr Yan. So I actually think all the pressure is on Petr Yan, who I think that at this point has showed he's the more skilled fighter, the more prone fighter to being the next champion of the two guys, because Suga is yet to be seen. So don't think here that I'm not giving Petr Yan a shot. What I'm saying is that I believe the pressure is on Petr Yan, and it will be up to him and his ability that will then dictate the end result of the fight. You know what I'm saying? I think that Petr Yan has less room for error. Suga could make mistakes and bounce back. He could even lose this fight and still be who he is. But Petr Yan has a lot riding on this fight. So that's where I'm at right now. We got Suga Sean, Suga So Sweet versus Petr Yan, Jason Statham versus the Joker. If you don't like that analogy, find a better one. And now we got Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw, which maybe in a way has lost a little bit of that spectacle to it, perhaps just due to the fact that we have Suga Sean versus Petr Yan. Am I wrong? I hope I'm wrong, because I think it's a great fight. And then also, of course, I'm not even mentioning the main event yet. I don't have to mention the main event, which is exactly why I didn't mention it, because it ain't only the Suga Sean versus Petr Yan fight that might be overshadowing. It's actually the granddaddy of them all, the absolute fight of the year, which is overshadowing it. But look, Aljamain has gone on the record saying he's looking to utilize the exact same game plan. He's looking to utilize that backpack. Look, I got to say, suddenly I'm not surprised as to why Aljamain Sterling would look to move up if Merab-Dashvili, his teammate, becomes a number one contender. He's got to thank the shit out of him, because Merab has been the perfect training partners over the last few camps to beat a guy like Petr Yan and to beat a guy like TJ Dillashaw. Okay, so first of all, Aljo better be buying Merab that Rolly, whether he wins or loses after this fight versus TJ. But look, you have one of the most dynamic strikers and one of the most resilient strikers in the game in TJ Dillashaw. Beats Corey Sandhagen with no ACL in one of his knees. Since working with Dwayne Bang Ludwig years ago, you've clearly seen how dynamic he's gotten his striking. The guy is boxed with the likes of Vasily Lomachenko, which we truly don't know how that went, because we'll never see the full highlights, but I can't guarantee it went that great. I mean, Lomachenko's the fucking GOAT. But either way, going in there, utilizing your footwork, there ain't nothing better, baby. So look, you got a dynamic, resilient guy in TJ Dillashaw that is no stranger to the shit talk. He's been in there with Cody Garbrandt. He's had war of words with Conor McGregor, with his own, mentor in Uriah Faber. He doesn't care what Aljamain Sterling has to say. I could guarantee you that. Okay. And when you're fighting a guy in TJ who also has a collegial wrestling background, yeah, I understand you want to backpack him, but TJ could fucking wrestle. So what's the game plan if the wrestling doesn't work? That kind of leaves me a little bit wondering, like, oh, you're trolling us. You don't expect to backpack him for 25 minutes. Okay, I get what's going on here. You're just, trying to tell us what we think we should hear or we want to hear, and maybe you'll do the opposite, or maybe you'll do a little bit of both. Who cares? It's a mixed martial arts fight for the UFC bantamweight title. Okay, so whether or not you execute your game plan, look, that's not only up to you, it's up to your opponent. And TJ Dillashaw is a very difficult one. Now, I went a little bit all over the place there. Why? Because there's a lot riding on this fight. If you take away the 25 minutes that Aljamain Sterling did against Petr Yan, you're kind of saying to yourself, like, TJ's definitely winning this fight, no doubt. But after beating the hitman himself, Petr Yan, in Aljamain Sterling, now you're kind of trying to figure it out. Holy shit, could he actually get this done? So I really think that the dynamic striking, footwork, and tenacity in TJ Dillashaw is going to be a great matchup against Aljamain Sterling, who's a dynamic fighter with a wealth of cardio and, has lately gone to his wrestling a little bit more than he has in the past. So that's going to be a great, great matchup. And I love breaking down fights like this when not only the viewer or perhaps myself still doesn't have clarity on who the victorious person could be. And if you think you lack clarity in who could be the victorious winner in Aljamain Sterling versus TJ Dillashaw, wait till what I got for you next. Okay, so let me wrap up that Aljo versus TJ thing. I mean, look, there's a lot of folks out there that are like, dude, it's pretty clear here. TJ is a collegial wrestler. He's got great takedown defense. He has a good ground game. But more importantly, I don't see how Aljo could handle the striking capabilities in TJ Dillashaw, which arguably is more dynamic than Petr Yan. And that argument I agree with. But at the same time, TJ Dillashaw being on the shelf due to the EPO controversies, also tearing his ACL and having that lack of activity could be a little bit of an issue. And trust me, a 25-minute dominancy over Petr Yan in Aljamain Sterling will definitely boost your confidence. So let me know in the comments below who you got. Are you more confused or are you more clear after that breakdown? Let me know how you feel about that one, because I got to say, after, breaking it down, really putting my thoughts together even more, because you know me, AC, baby, right off the dome, like Wheezy F. I got to say, the fight is way more exciting now. But now we got the craziest matchup of them all, the match of the year. It's funny. I was talking to, someone else in the podcast game who likes MMA as well and has an MMA podcast. And I said, I already filled out my Fighter of the Year award, my Promoter of the Year, my MMA awards. I already filled out my ballot. Islam Makhachev versus Charlie Olives didn't even happen yet. And I had already given Alex Volkanovski the Fighter of the Year. And then I looked at the calendar and I said, shit, I'm going to have to do this again. But maybe I won't. Because Alex Volkanovski is going to be the alternate for Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. So maybe I won't have to, because I chose Alex Volkanovski as my Fighter of the Year. So maybe I won't have to do that. But anyways, Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev is easily the biggest fight that we have this year. Is it the biggest fight in lightweight history? I'm not sure. It might turn out to be in the long run, or perhaps right after the match is finished, or maybe in a few years to come. But as of now, I'm not sure if it's absolutely the lightweight fight of the year. But look, we got a guy in Islam Makhachev who is the prodigy or the understudy of the great Khabib Nurmagomedov, who most of us feel like we got, shorted in his career a little bit, but family first, God first. He's keeping his promise, respect to Khabib. in Islam Makhachev, his understudy, his mentor. He's got great top game. He looks for that grapevine. He looks to smash and then pass and then look for the submission or look for the TKO. You know, got a very similar style to Khabib, but maybe even a little more finishes. I don't have the stats in front of me, but as of lately, it appears so. Is used to being on top 46%. He's a smothering body in there, Islam Makhachev, and he comes from that Russian Sambo, that Dagestani wrestling, mixed with that AKA love on the feet with Javier Mendez. It's a recipe for disaster. But who is the guy? Who is the lion to stand in front of that? It's Charles Oliveira, okay? Who, like we've spoken about on this podcast before, had a little bit of that mishap with the scale. He was supposed to fight Justin Gaethje. He had the mishap on the scale. He missed weight by a pound or two or whatever the case was, still went out there and still put his body and his heart on the line and beat a dominator and a destroyer in Justin Gaethje. So even with the odds stacked against him from the night before, he was still able to utilize, you know, all of his skills to beat Justin Gaethje. And on top of that, we're not thinking about the fact that I'm pretty sure Charles Oliveira now is like 20-8 in the UFC because he's on a 9-fight winning streak. So before that, he was about a 500 fighter. And then out of nowhere, the guy is literally fighting for his life right now to be one of the greatest lightweights of all time in fighting Islam Makhachev in Abu Dhabi. And we obviously know when guys like Khabib and Islam roll up to Abu Dhabi or Dubai, it's not a red carpet service. It's like a fucking diamond encrusted service. They got the cars, the food, the facilities, the care, everything. These guys are treated like superheroes when they go out to Abu Dhabi. And keep in mind that Islam Makhachev's birthday is October 27th. So, you know, trust me, they're going to make that experience a whole of a lot more special for him should he win the title. It's not easy to go out all the way to Abu Dhabi and fight for the title. But again, Charles Oliveira is up for the challenge. He is up for the challenge. He doesn't care about what happened last fight with the scale. He's going to go in there and make weight again. He has no doubt in his mind. Look, you have a guy in Charles Oliveira who has great knees, great Muay Thai, and a ferociousness and an explosiveness in the jiu-jitsu department that we don't usually see. A lot of guys use their jiu-jitsu to get themselves out of bad positions. Charles Oliveira invites bad positions so that he could utilize his jiu-jitsu and his explosiveness to put you in the most vulnerable positions to either submit you or regain position or at least instill that panic and anxiety in you. But who does the exact same thing in the wrestling department is Islam Makhachev. The difference is, though, is that Islam is able to utilize that when he is on top and when he is in the dominant position. Charles Oliveira is equally as comfortable off of his back. And that's what makes this fight interesting in the ground game department. What makes this fight interesting in the stand-up is, you know, Charlie has the reach. He's got the teeps to the body, similar to what Suga Sean might do. He has the elbows and knees in the clinch as well because he's got a great Muay Thai clinch. Okay? But then you have Islam Makhachev who loves to charge forward, pin guys up against the cage, utilize his boxing. Will the way that Islam utilizes his setups to get to his bread and butter be his demise? We'll see. Because moving forward like that and trying to close that distance, maybe similar to what Petr Yan might do, might again be Islam's demise. But on the flip side, maybe these guys are just absolute world beaters. Maybe Islam Makhachev is the exact same as Khabib Nurmagomedov in the sense that it doesn't matter what your game plan is. My game plan is simple, effective, but so fucking far superior that you just can't comprehend it once you're in there with me. And that's what makes this fight so exciting. Because I think on paper, Islam, it's more like straightforward. Come forward, utilize your boxing, take him down, smash and pass, submission or position, you know, and win the fight, whether it's by TKO, submission, or a grueling decision. Let's be honest here, more of perhaps a TKO or a grueling decision. But then on the flip side, you have Charles Oliveira, where he is so dynamic, where in all of those positions against Islam, where it looks like he might be at a disadvantage, he's actually at an advantage. So another fucking crazy fight, the epitome of a 50-50 fight. Will the simple but effective, straight to the point style of Islam Makhachev be too much for Charles Oliveira, or will the heart, the grit, the persistency, and the overall dynamic style and just overall overwhelming and chaotic output of Charles Oliveira be enough? So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you today. AC Radio, stay tuned, baby. We're back. We're going fucking hard in the paint. We're going to recap the UFC 280 fight next Sunday. It'll be out the following Tuesday. We're going to preview Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. We're going to have more Q&As in the bank. Obviously, still that fitness and motivation chatter. And I'm just looking forward to continuing the journey with all of you. I'm looking forward to you guys seeing that Suga Sean edit. Stay tuned for that. Suga, how you guess so fly, baby. AC Radio, we're out.
Big G's, no design on my jacket. Work hard, now I'm changing my bracket. Talk tough, we ain't hear that racket. Dogs came in, you know how to stack it. Don't take it wrong, but I'ma need my ends though. I got tigers on my chest like Kenzo. Rail came, yeah, he putting that Benz though. Carol's here, man, you know he stay 10 toes. Big dog, man, you know I ain't worried. Bent up, so I'm talking real slow.